Hey guys, today I am going to be doing a little tutorial on how to use the Subculture Palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. A lot of people find this hard to use, and I have been practicing how to use these specific shadows, and I found some ways that make it a lot easier to use. The colors in this are super gorgeous, and now you guys can use them without worrying about them being so difficult. Let's get started. So let's start by putting some concealer on our eyelids. You can also just use an eyeshadow primer. I just like using concealer. I think it's easier and I think it does the same thing as an eyeshadow primer. Then you can either dab that in with your fingers or a sponge. Okay, so now I am going to be dipping into Dawn. Dawn is this shade right here. And then I'm just going to be grabbing a blending brush. So you're going to want to tap into this palette, rather than swipe into the shadows. You're going to want to tap. So you're going to go in there, tap it, and tap the excess off because these shadows are super pigmented. So then I'm just going to go all over my lid up to my brow bone. Okay, and then with the same blending brush, I'm going to dip into New Wave. It's this really nice yellowy, orangey, peachy shade. And then put that on my lid and bring it up a little bit past my high crease, but not all the way to my brow. Okay, so one thing I've definitely learned with this palette is that you should use mostly fluffy brushes. So I really like using this blending brush because I can easily get the color out of it without having to wash it, and it picks up just the right amount of product without getting a lot of fallout or kickback from the shadows. So then I'm going to go into Roxy, this shade right here. Put that all over my lid and into my high crease. Okay, so I have this brush here, and I'm going to dip into Mercury really lightly. It's this shade right here. It comes across kind of gray in the pan, but it is actually a light brown shade, and it's more cool toned, and I want to use a little more cool tones because I've already used quite a few warm tones. You can put a little bit of that on the outside of your lid. And with these shadows, you really need to take your time to blend them. So if you really need to get your eyeshadow done really fast, I would not recommend using this palette. But if you do use this palette, make sure that you use blending brushes and more fluffy brushes like the one I'm using right now. They get the job done quicker. And then I'm going to take this blending brush, I just cleaned it off, and I am going to soften the edges a little bit. There we go, everything seems softened out here. So then I am going to take this kind of smudger brush, but it's a little more full than a smudger brush, you know what I'm saying? And it's meant for eyeshadows. I'm just going to take some of my rose water spray here. I love this stuff. As you can see, I am almost completely out. Well, not almost completely out, but I've used quite a bit of it. Anyway, I just really like to use it to spray on my tools. It really helps pick up the pigment, as I'm sure most of you have heard. If you wet a brush, it helps pick up the eyeshadow pigment better. And so I am dipping into Electric. It is this super cool metallic sparkly shade right here. There are a few metallic multi-chrome kind of shades in this palette, and these don't really have a lot of fallout. The one that does have some fallout is Adorn. It's the golden shade, but we're not using that in this look today, but it's a really pretty shade. So as you can see, I got a lot more shadow on the brush after wetting it. Actually, I think my eyeshadow needs a little more blending, so I'm just going to grab the blending brush. Okay, I think that's a little more blended. Mercury takes a little bit more blending. It's just a little bit patchy. Not terribly, but just a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to go back in with my brush I just put into electric. I'm going to swipe that all over the lid. Okay, hopefully this is coming across on camera. This is gorgeous on top of the warmer tones. It's still sheer enough that you can still see the work you did underneath it with the matte shadows. So that is a nice feature. I'm just going to go on my other lid. This is so pretty. And the more you layer on, the more pigment you'll get, so you can get this opaque if you want to. I really hope you can see how pretty this is on camera. Alright, now it's time for the lower lash line. This is the double-sided brush that actually comes in the palette, so it has a blending brush. I don't like to use this blending brush on the Subculture palette though. I think it's kind of scratchy, so I don't really like this end. But this end is pretty nice. It picks up enough pigment and it lays down the shadows pretty well, so I do like to use this side. So I'm going to be using this side for my bottom lash line. It's a smudger brush, and I think I will be going in with Dawn, that first shade we used. Right here, Dawn, the first shade we used. And just go underneath my eye. I'm going to turn it the long way. So instead of going this way, I'm going to go this way on my bottom lash line, if that makes sense. With this first shade, I'm going to be doing 2 shades. Okay, so once you've got that first shade done, you can blend it down a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to go into a little bit of Axis. Axis is this corner shade right here. It comes across a little more dark green in the palette, but it's actually a little more blue than you would expect. And this is like one of the most pigmented shadows on the palette, so be careful with this. I'm going to go tighter into the lower lash line. Okay, I think to tie that into the look, I'm going to put a little bit of Axis with the same smudger brush onto the top lash line, just kind of smudge that in. So also, I put it onto the outer third, slightly, not all the way up my lid, but I kind of smudged it a little more intensely in that area. I'm going to use this blending brush and kind of soften the bottom lash line out. Okay, blended that out. And then I'm going to take this small detail brush. This brush is by Japanesque. I really like that brand. They have nice brushes, so I would recommend that. I got this in a set with an eyeshadow quad. I used to have a subscription to Ipsy, you know, like the Ipsy glam bags. I don't have it anymore, but a lot of my brushes are more indie brands or smaller companies. I don't necessarily have a lot of expensive high-end brushes, but I am working on it. But if you guys are interested in more indie brands, I definitely have a good channel for that. So hit that subscribe button down below if you like indie brands. So I'm just going to take electric, and then I'm going to clean that brush off, and I'm going into a shade called Cube. this white shade right here. It's actually very iridescent. It reflects from white to pink and sometimes purple. And then I'm also putting that on my brow bone. And I'm also going to put a little bit of electric on top of Cube in my inner corner to make the look seem a little more cohesive. Fun fact, my camera is set really high right now, but I don't want to move it because I have a broken foot and I'm just not in the mood to stand up right now. So I'm sitting on 3 pillows and a blanket. Okay, so now I'm going to be moving on to the rest of my face. So I'm going to be going into my foundation. So I'm using the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Soft Matte Longwear Foundation in the shade 110. And then I also have the primer right here. The primer has the more beige kind of taupe kind of, I don't know, pink shade of cap, and the foundation has the white cap in case you are confused if you have it yourself. Also, it just says on the bottom. Anyway, it says to shake it up on the label. Almay Clear Complexion Concealer. It's from the drugstore. My Coty Airspun Translucent Powder. Inspire or Inspire, I'm not sure how they pronounce their brand. I'm using their Brow Powder Duo, a contour and highlight duo from Monaco Beauty, that's how I pronounce it, or Model Co blush in the shade Peach Bellini. I'm just going to zoom it in for that mascara. By the way, I am using Almay One Coat Thickening Mascara. Then on my bottom lashes, I'm using Almay One Coat Mega Volume Mascara. Alrighty, I'm going to put on my lipstick now. This is NYX Whipped Fouette lipstick. Alright guys, this is the finished look. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that I shared some helpful tips and tricks on how to use the Subculture Palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I would really appreciate if you guys could subscribe down below to help get me started. I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.